to the show. Today, we've enlisted the help of our experts to help you avoid common mistakes that they see time and time again. First up, we're tackling some common cooking mistakes. I'm making a dish that's inspired by the flavors of the 80s. Because I was alive for 2 weeks of the 80s, so we're doing it. Now, we've got some sun-dried tomatoes in there, we've got a creamy, delicious sauce, and we've got what I like to call 80s chicken. What does that mean? You're gonna find out. It's all good. So I'm gonna give you some tips along the way too for some common mistakes that I see people make when they're making chicken, when they're making dinner. So the first thing I wanna do is get to work on that chicken. So I've got some chicken thighs here and I'm using bone-in and skin-on chicken thighs. That is a key thing when you're looking for a little bit of extra insurance when you're making chicken. I know a lot of people always reach for like boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Breasts tend to overcook relatively quickly. So using dark meat is a great way to maintain nice, juicy kind of texture and flavor. That little bit of skin on there too gives you extra fat that cooks down and kind of almost bastes that meat as it cooks. And then that bone in there, I kind of refer to that as like chicken insurance. It makes sure it stays nice and juicy and you're not gonna overcook it. So I've got those chicken thighs here, and the first thing you wanna do anytime you're looking for a golden brown sear is dry that off with a little bit of paper towel, because moisture is the enemy of golden brown. So now I'm just gonna season those up with a little bit of salt and pepper. Now the salt is necessary. That's gonna draw out some of that moisture. It's also gonna season that meat, but not make it taste salty. It's just gonna make it taste more delicious, which is always a good thing. Now I'm gonna flip those babies over and season the underside as well. And when you buy chicken thighs with the bone in, they come kind of rolled up. So they actually take a little bit longer to cook than boneless, skinless, but they, again, hold that moisture really, really nicely. So again, salt and pepper. And if you wanted to, you could chuck these in the pan right now and start searing those off. But for a little bit of extra safety, I'm gonna add a little bit of flour into a dish and toss those chicken thighs in there. So just half a cup of flour. I know. Basically, it's like the life jacket of the chicken. It's there just in case. Yes, you can swim, but just in case, you've got it. So that little bit of flour is gonna coat that chicken. It's gonna be beautiful, and it's gonna give you just a layer between the hot heat of the pan and that chicken. It's gonna help hold that skin on, and you're good to go. So just toss that all over. Another thing that this flour is gonna do is as it cooks in this pan, some of that flour is gonna fall off and help lead to kind of like the base of a pan sauce. And if you're making chicken thighs and not doing a pan sauce, I don't even know you anymore. You gotta make that pan sauce. All right, so I've got that nice and coated, and I've got a pan here over medium-high heat, because I'm looking for golden brown color. So I'm gonna add in a bit of oil, and I like to sear my chicken in oil, not in butter, because butter tends to burn. Oil has a higher smoke point, so you're not gonna end up with like a literal smoke show in your kitchen. So add in that chicken, and the thing is, when you add anything that you want golden brown, add it in skin side down, or the side you want to present down, because that's going to give you nice golden brown color, make it absolutely beautiful, and it's going to look great. So even when you're doing like fish, always sear the first side, the side you want to serve up, if that makes sense. Basically cook it upside down, serve it right side up. Does that make sense? You got it. All right, now I just wanna let that sear for about 5 minutes. And when you're searing chicken, you wanna make sure don't overcrowd the pan. Leave it a little bit of room, because that's gonna allow that steam to get out. And don't touch it. I'm always like, let me just poke it and check and see what's going on. Don't do it. That gives an opportunity for some steam to get underneath, and steam is moisture, and moisture doesn't like golden brown. So just leave those alone for those 5 minutes, and then you're gonna get golden brown color. Once it's seared, these chicken thighs should just kind of wiggle out of that pan and not stick. They just kind of release. So we've got that golden brown color on here, and a lot of times I feel like people are like, oh, I'm pan searing chicken, I gotta finish it in this pan. No. I like to get that golden brown color in the pan, then oh man, I'm getting a little sticky. I'm lying to you. Sometimes things happen. I can tell you all the rules, but sometimes things happen and stuff sticks. Oh, actually, I got it. We good. Perfect. So just get that chicken out of there, and I'm gonna transfer it onto a baking sheet, and then I'm gonna finish cooking this in the oven. Because basically, in my mind, the oven does all the work for me. I just set a timer. I speak to a speaker that speaks to me in the house and say, hey, can you set a timer for 20 minutes? And then I get to have a glass of wine while the oven does its thing and cooks the rest of my dinner. So I'm gonna pop those into a 425-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, just until those chicken thighs are cooked through. Chicken for you today. We're troubleshooting some common mistakes along the way. Honestly, this recipe is inspired by one in my second cookbook, Well Seasoned, and it's a total showstopper. Mary Berg makes it every time her friends come over, and I've thought of all of the issues that can happen because I've Mary Berg proofed this recipe, which is a very good thing. Her whole thing is if she can make it, anyone can make it. So we've got that chicken in the oven, and it's just cooking through. Again, we got that beautiful golden brown sear on it in the pan. Then we're gonna let the oven do the rest of the work on that chicken because I don't wanna think about it again. But we have so much flavor happening in this pan. There's that little bit of oil in there from that chicken. Some of the chicken schmaltz has melted out, so then you got chickeny fat. And I'm also gonna add in a bit of butter because, like, why not? I feel like that's very not 80s though. Like I feel like 80s was very like, oh no, butter. Let's replace butter with applesauce. I don't know, yeah? So we're like shirking that a little bit because I do love butter. Now I'm gonna add in a tablespoon and just let that melt together. This is completely optional. You don't necessarily need it, but again, it builds so much extra flavor. I know, like what is a better sound and look than this? Absolute delight. Now remember, there's a little bit of flour in there too, so that's gonna help thicken up our pan sauce. But I also wanna add in some aromatics. So I've got some shallot here, and I just wanna dice that up. A shallot is basically like a tiny little onion that kinda sorta also tastes like garlic. It's really soft, super tasty and delicious. So I'm just gonna mince that up. You wanna use one shallot. If you don't have shallots or can't find them, or you're just like, that tiny bag is not coming home with me from the grocery store, you could totally swap that out with a small onion. I'd use probably about half of an onion though, because shallots are quite small. And if you have a giant onion, obviously use about a quarter of that, but to each their own. This is where you get to kind of make it your own. If you love onion, chuck a bunch of onion in there. You do you. All right, now I'm gonna go over to this pan. That butter has melted in, and I'm gonna add in that beautiful chopped shallot. Now, as soon as that shallot, this smell, truly, that chicken fat, that butter, that shallot is like an absolute delight. Everyone who smells it's like, oh, I'm eating well tonight. So now I'm gonna add in some salt. As soon as that shallot hits the pan, I wanna add in a little bit of salt because what that does is it removes some moisture from that shallot and allows it to cook down and get golden brown. Moisture doesn't really taste like anything, like water tastes like water. We wanna concentrate that flavor. So by adding that salt, more of that water is gonna cook out. We're gonna get golden brown quicker, and it's gonna be totally delicious. Now, I would let this cook for about a minute or two just to soften and get a little bit golden brown. And again, as we add those shallots, because there is moisture in them, any little stuck on bits on that pan are gonna get kind of like rattled off of there. It's gonna be tasty. You're gonna get all that flavor. Like, see, there's a little bit of chicken skin that didn't make it into the oven, but now it's in the sauce. So that's a delight. All right. Now I've let those shallots cook down, and now I'm gonna add in my garlic. Anytime a recipe tells you to add onions and garlic in the pot at the same time, it's lying to you, because garlic burns quickly. And know what's gross? Burnt garlic. Burnt onion, honestly fine. I actually like a burnt onion, but burnt garlic, gross, get it out of here. So I'm gonna add that in now, and just let that go for about 30 seconds. And now we're gonna start building that sauce. So we've got that fat in there, we've got those aromatics, and we have that little bit of flour left over from searing that chicken. So now I'm gonna add in some liquid. The first thing I need is half a cup of low sodium chicken broth. I know, I tend to use a lot of salt. I love salt so much, but I'm always adding it. Anytime I'm buying something from the grocery store and there's a low sodium option, I pretty much always go for it, especially with broth. It doesn't taste different, but it will cut back on that like hidden sodium that you can't even really taste. So in goes about half a cup of that. You want that to come up to a nice simmer. And again, this is one of those recipes where I'm like, oh, Mary, you really went for it. We got that oil, we got that chicken schmaltz, we got that butter, and now we're gonna add whipping cream. But this is the thing. So anytime you are looking at a recipe, especially one of my recipes, I'll specify what type of cream or milk you're supposed to use. And if it doesn't matter, I'll say that too. But basically, if you're using something with a higher fat percentage, something like table cream or whipping cream, it's not gonna split in the pan. Heat can make cream or dairy split, and we don't want that. So by using a higher fat percentage, you're kind of like minimizing the risk of this turning into like weird cheese sauce. Because we don't want, it may be mac and cheese week, but we do not want that here. All right, so I'm just gonna stir that together, and with that cream, you already see a little bit of creaminess coming in. Now, I typically would let that come up to a simmer and go for about 5 minutes just to thicken and reduce, but I'm gonna season this up now with some more flavors. So the first thing I need is about 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. If you have dry mustard powder, that'd also work, but Dijon has like a nice vinegariness in there. Now I'm also gonna add in some lemon juice. This is gonna brighten everything, allow some of that fat to be a little bit more like, oh, I could eat another bite of that. But because we used that heavy cream, it shouldn't split. Adding acid into something dairy can sometimes tend for it to get a little curdled, but adding this in to that cream, that heavy fat cream, it won't split, but you're gonna get that nice bright lemon flavor. If you must, and you insist on using a lower fat cream, I would just add lemon zest, because that doesn't have the acidity, so you can still get that lemon flavor, but I like whipping cream, because that's how I do. Use it in desserts, use it in mains, put it in your coffee, what a delight. All right, now I've just stirred that up. It's looking beautiful, it smells really nice. So now I'm gonna bring the 80s more into this. First thing I need is Parmigiano Reggiano, and I feel like if I was going true 80s, I'd be using shaky cheese. And we know how much I love my shaky cheese, despite what some people here may think. Yeah. So add that in, that's gonna thicken things up. And then I've got those sun-dried tomatoes. And I don't know what it is about sun-dried tomatoes, but they were like the fancy thing. They add like a ton of umami into the flavor, really nice and bright and delicious, kind of smoky too. And this is where you can go totally off book. So I've got some greens here. I'm using kale, dark, like black kale, also known as dino kale or Tuscan kale. But if you had any other sort of dark leafy green, feel free to throw that in. You could even use frozen peas if you had those hanging around. But you could use Swiss chard, you could use collard greens, spinach would be delicious. But just add that in, give that a bit of a stir up. I'm gonna season that actually with a little bit more salt, because again, we use that low sodium broth, so we're fine, everybody. That green is wilting down, it's looking beautiful. And that chicken should be perfectly cooked, nice and crispy on the outside, cooked through on the inside. And when you're looking for chicken, you want it to be around 165. If you're a little nervous, I use a leave-in probe thermometer, always a good thing. But like, look at these. Crispy, crunchy skin. Totally dreamy. Now I'm just gonna pop those babies right on into this pan. Typically I would make 8 chicken thighs for this recipe, but today we're just doing 4 because that's what we felt like. And we didn't want to overcrowd that pan. So add that in. To be honest, I would just plop this on the table just like this, but somebody's gotta do a little bit of a taste, and she's smoking hot. Are you ready? Okay, camera vision is gonna taste this recipe today. So we're going in. Little bit of chicken skin. Wait, I gotta get you a good chicken bite. Man, I don't remember the last time I cut a piece of chicken like this with a knife and fork. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, camera vision is having the chicken. Absolutely beautiful. It's hot. Ah, nice. Chris Corrado, everybody. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.